This is AllDolphins Talk on the Our Football Network. For a minute, I thought it was all Montreal Expos talk. I'll take that one too. So the Miami Dolphins coming off a huge win over Arizona as they come back home feeling awfully good about themselves, and they'll take on the LA Chargers. And once again, it looks like the Dolphins are getting no respect. One of the hottest teams in the NFL, and they're not even a 3-point home favorite to the LA Chargers. But that's okay. I guess I'll have to take advantage of that with my bank account. How's everything going, Alan?
Everything's going well. Yeah, that's kind of a weird one though, because if you take away the obligatory 3-point swing for having home field, that basically means that your odds makers think that the Chargers are a better team, which is kind of odd a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't get it, but like I said, that's good. I'll take advantage of that because the Dolphins have now won 4 straight up and against the spread. They're 1-0 straight up and against the spread as a home favorite when they shut out the Jets. It's the only time they've been a home favorite this year, and they handled that well. They've got revenge on their side. Of course, the Chargers beat them up last year when things weren't going well early in the season in Miami. Won that game 30-10 over the Dolphins. And by the way, the Chargers are only 1-7-1 against the spread in their last 9 games versus teams looking for revenge. But we know why. I think it's because of the fact that the Chargers have been in so many close football games. They've lost 3 road games by a total of 11 points. So I get that. But you have one team that is finding all sorts of ways how to win football games, and you have another team that can't figure out any way to win a football game unless they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, all right, we'll see. But anyway, that's coming up later on. But first things first, a huge win from Miami, and no more questions about whether Tua is the quarterback of the future, right?
Wouldn't think so after the way he played on Sunday. That was really impressive. I mean, everything, the passing, and to me, what was the most impressive part of it was the way he scrambled and made defenders miss in open space.
Yes.
I did not see that coming from him. The accurate passes that you knew he was going to be able to do, but the scrambling was really impressive. And the way he kept his poise throughout the game in a close game where the margin for error was not very big at any time. Yeah, it was quite the performance from him.
I was watching, usually when I have to jot down notes for these games, for these shows, I don't usually, I can't go every drive, but I only will think about, okay, I have to write down specific plays or key plays. And whenever I think there's a key play, when they were down 31-24, and this would eventually become the breakthrough career drive for Tua, which was as soon as he hit that pass on 3rd and 9 from his 8-yard line to Parker, I just jotted it down. I went, okay, I know it's only 1 first down, but maybe this is the beginning of a drive that I need to start writing my notes down. And sure enough, 3rd and 4, he scrambles. Looks like one of the top players in the league on defense, Budda Baker's got him in sights. Nope, he was able to get a first down. He made the really the Houdini run for 17 yards down to the Arizona 10-yard line, and then hit Matt Collins on the very next play for the 10-yard touchdown pass to tie the game. That was an incredible drive, as you mentioned, scrambling, perfect passes, accurate passes, the type of accurate passing that he became famous for at Alabama, the reason why he was a top quarterback in the draft last year. And I think that is going to be the drive that he's going to look back to 10, 15, 20 years from now and say, that's the drive where I really took off.
Yeah, and even the touchdown pass that culminated the drive, that play to me was more Mac Hollins making the play than it was a great pass. And if you remember the play, the defensive back, had he turned around, would have had the ball right in his hands, but he never turned around. And Mac Hollins did a great job of jumping over the guy and basically snatching the ball away from him. The key play in that drive, you mentioned the 3rd and 9 to Devontae Parker. Here's the thing about that play that was so huge. The Dolphins were inside their 10-yard line. They were trailing 31-24. You don't get the first down there. You have to punt from inside your 10, which means Arizona gets great field position with a great chance of padding that 31-24 lead and making it a 2-score game. So even had they not gone on to get a touchdown on that drive, just making that completion to Parker on that 39 on a play where Parker was not that wide open. He was very well covered by Patrick Peterson, but Tango Viola threw a perfect pass to him. Just getting that one first down got him out of trouble in terms of the field position. That was big in itself. And obviously, the fact that they ended the drive with a touchdown was just gigantic.
And then things that really began how exciting this finish was going to get, because Arizona on 4th and inches gets stopped. That was Seiler, right? Stopping Edmonds?
Yeah, Zach Sealer, yeah,
Sealer.
great play,
Stopping Chase
great,
Edmonds.
great
Yep.
play.
And,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe because Murray is such a small guy, and you do want to give the impression that maybe Murray can hold on to the ball. And I can understand that that might appear to be a more important way to go about trying to pick up 4th and inches or 4th and a foot. I don't know. Maybe because Tom Brady makes it look so easy. But the 4th and inches, 4th and foot calls, I don't understand why. And I know it's not always 100%. I get it. But I don't know. It just always seems to me to be the easiest way to do it. But again, I think with Murray, maybe in his size and the fact that he's got the ability to break it, if he could just make one guy miss, that's just the way that they're going to do it. But bottom line is that was a great play by Seiler to stop Arizona on 4th and inches. And you got to believe that that had a lot to do with why Arizona decided at the end of their drive, at the end of the game, that when they had 3rd and 1, then he had 4th and 1, and on 3rd and 1, they decided to throw the football. And then on 4th and 1, they decided, well, we'll kick the field goal. And if I'm the Miami Dolphins, I'm going, okay, go ahead, kick the 40. I'd rather them kick the 49-yard field goal. It's a pressure kick. Because if they pick up a first down, you might be in trouble of this team possibly coming down and winning the game. I was kind of surprised Arizona didn't go for it there.
Well, yeah, but a couple of things to unpack here. Number one, before the failed fourth down attempt, Arizona was 2 for 2 on fourth downs, both time with Murray keeping it on an option.
That's right.
Now, the play before the 4th and 1 that failed, if you recall, Murray scrambled and took a big shot from Byron Jones.
Okay.
Maybe, just maybe, and he kind of looked like he was, I want to say dazed or shaken, but it wasn't a normal hit where he could just shake it off very easily. So I can't help but wonder what maybe that played a role in the decision to just hand the ball off to Chase Edmonds.
Possibly.
Now, having said that, if you're Arizona, do you really want the ball out of Kyler Murray's hands on a 4th and 1? Even if you're not going to have him keep it on an option, how about have him throw the ball or something to that effect?
Yes.
Now, the second one, or the last one, the third down pass was Kyler Murray, maybe his only really bad play of the game. Was a horrible pass. And then on fourth down, the two things, I personally didn't like Brian Flores going for a field goal when the Dolphins faced there on 4th and 1, because it put them only up by 3 with 3.5 minutes left and vulnerable to losing the game with an Arizona touchdown. The decision by Cliff Kingsbury to go for the field goal to me was even worse, because one, all it does is tie the game, and it gives the Dolphins 1:50 to come back down the field for a game-winning field goal. And number two, the big difference between the two teams is the Dolphins have Jason Sanders, who's been perfect all year, and Arizona has Zane Gonzalez, who in Arizona's last game missed a field goal in overtime against Seattle, only to get a second chance and win it later with a kick. But it's not like he's necessarily a great field goal kicker, certainly not in the class of Jason Sanders. And then how you come up short in the NFL on a 49-yard attempt is kind of beyond me, but that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point that because I got to believe I'm an Arizona fan after what happened with Seattle, because the game-winning kick was a lot shorter. So that was like, unless he's going to really shank this one, he's going to make it. So I don't think, you have to make it. You're a pro. 49 yards under that circumstance is not easy. That's basically a 50-yarder. I mean, that's just, you should make it still if you're an NFL kicker. But in that situation, I would be interested to know exactly what the percentages are, to tell you the truth. If they have, 49-yarder, under 2 minutes to go to tie the game, what are the percentages? Because I don't think, unless it's a Tucker or, somebody like a Sanders that's having a great year, or a kicker that's been with the same team for 6 years because he's a great kicker. I got to imagine guys like Gonzalez, those are like pretty iffy. Maybe 60%, 65%, I would think.
Yeah, no, I don't know percentages, but I mean, the decision was just was mind-boggling to me when I saw him, and it basically no hesitation. I mean, it basically right away when the third down pass fell
Yeah,
incomplete. Here comes Gonzalez on the field, and I'm thinking, if I'm the Miami Dolphins, I say
that's
thank you
right.
very much, thank you very very
Yes,
much.
absolutely. Uh,
Really weird call.
and by the way, I actually picked up Sanders a month ago on my fantasy team. I needed
Good
a
move.
kicker. You convinced me with the way that he was not only kicking statistically, but as you were saying, rightfully so, that he's just nailing everything like down the middle. Now he didn't have those kicks in this game, but he didn't. I mean, when you're kicking over
No,
50 yards, that's okay. I mean, you just get it in any way that you can, especially the 56-yarder.
well, correct. But I saw it earlier in the day. To me, the standard for all kickers is Justin Tucker. And earlier in the day, they were playing the Colts, and he hit a 48-yarder. And I swear to you, if the goalpost had been, I mean, this wide, like 2 feet wide, he would have nailed it. I mean, it was right down the
Yeah,
middle. Sanders, these actually were the first two kicks that were not completely down the
yeah.
middle, but hey, 56-yarder, career long, 50-yarder for the lead and eventually the win. Now he's got 20 in a row dating back to last year, team record, only kicker in the NFL without a miss on either field goals or extra points. Can't ask any more than that.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's also talk about the defense, the positive first, and that's Emmanuel Ogba, who is having a fantastic season. Things got started in the game actually with Ogba's strip sack, which resulted in the loss and touchdown that really helped kickstart the Dolphins in that game. But Ogba now with 7 sacks, I think that's what tied for third or fourth in the league, something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
tied for fourth, I believe.
what are you noticing anything in particular with Ogba that's sticking out of how and why he is performing so much better this year? He's always been a very good defender. He was drafted high. I remember him playing at Oklahoma State. You knew the talent was there, but it really seems to be all just coming together for him this season.
Good athlete with a nice skill set in a scheme ideal for him. And the key part here is every chance he's gotten to make a big play this year, he makes it. The one against Murray, I mean, talk about impressive because if you recall the play, Murray scrambling to his right in the open field, and Agba basically tracked him down, got his hand on the ball, and that Murray was kind of holding a little bit low, but to be able to like corral Murray to slow him down and then be able to swipe the ball away, that's some good work right there. And again, he's made a play like every single game.
Yeah.
He makes an impact play. It's been like truly amazing. I had hope for him of all the free agent signings the Dolphins made in the offseason. The one that's really stood out obviously was Byron Jones, but outside of him, as I'm looking at what they had and really the need for a pass rusher because the pass rush was so bad last year, he was the guy that kind of jumped out at me. He had five sacks in 10 games with KC last year. So you think, well, maybe there's something there. And he's been incredible.
As far as Jones, well, let's go to the only sore spot of the game, and that was the corner tandem of Jones and Howard. And it's going to happen. I mean, you're going to have your off days. Even this corner duo, which has been the biggest reason, really, next to Ogba and a few other guys on defense, though, that have really solidified the unit. It takes away a lot of the field. Anytime that you can have two number one corners out there, it's a luxury that not many, if any team has in the NFL. But they had an off night. Jones got beat twice, including the jump ball situation, and Howard had 3 pass interference calls. What do you think? Just one of those days, huh?
It was one of those days. Yeah. And you called it a jump ball. It was actually Jones had the
He
ball
did have the
first
ball,
in the
yeah.
end zone. And Daryl Daniels completely took it away from
Yep.
him. And the thing that's got to be incredibly frustrating for Byron Jones, he hasn't had a pick in 3 years. I mean, you're not going to get a much better
That's right.
opportunity than he had there. And he kind of said it after the game or the day after. I don't even recall that. Yeah, this is one I should have had. And then he got beat for the long touchdown to Christian Kirk. As far as Howard is concerned, there was some good news in his performance in that DeAndre Hopkins, who came in as the NFL leader in receptions and receiving yards, ended up with only 3 catches for 30
Yeah,
yards,
absolutely.
which is a very low total. Now, obviously, you tack on, there's actually 4 DPS on Howard, so you attack those. So technically, maybe 7 catches. There wasn't a ton of yardage involved in the DPIs. I believe somebody actually did the math. It may have been like total, if you tack on the DPIs and add the yards, might have been like 7 for 85. No touchdown against DeAndre Hopkins. Not horrible. Didn't have a catch in the first half. So Howard's day was half bad, and Jones' day wasn't great. And even in Eric Rowe and Bobby McCain, the safeties weren't big factors. And the secondary is clearly the strength of the defense. And Kyler Murray had a passer rating of 150.5. So obviously not a good day for the secondary. Those are going to happen against good opponents. Bottom line is, and it came in a win.
Did you notice anything at all that Arizona was doing that other teams hadn't done? Was it just talent? That this was because Seattle, I mean, the Dolphins did play the Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. So, or again, it was just one of those days, right?
No, it was one of the, I mean, but in terms of 1, 2, 3, it's kind of tough to beat DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, and Christian Kirk. I mean, those are, that's a nice receiving trio there. Seattle, of course, has DK Metcalf, David Moore, and Tyler Lockett, which is in the same ballpark. And Russell Wilson also had a big day throwing the ball against the Dolphins. But at that time, the Dolphins didn't have Byron Jones, which they did in this game. So
okay,
one of those days, and they won.
yeah. So. As far as McCain, is he okay injury wise?
Amazingly, he never missed a snap on defense, because when he got hurt, it didn't look good because he's pointing at his knee and he's calling for help from the sideline. Never missed a snap. Actually came back to
What about Preston? How's he doing? He's got the foot injury.
He's got a foot injury. Read somewhere it's a sprain, and a lot of times you're dealing with when foot and sprain, that you might be getting into Liz Frank territory if that's the case. And again, I don't know. This is just me speculating on possibilities. That would not be good news. If it's an ankle sprain, that's a different story. Brian Flores was asked about his injury on Monday, and as is usually the case, he says, we'll see what's going to happen.
That would be a big blow. And we didn't have time last week to talk about the Isaiah Ford trade to New England, and that kind of caught me off guard. Not because the two teams in the division traded, but I do a show with Evan Laser on the Pats, and that's the one part of the Patriots offense that they just don't need more of, are slot guys. They need more outside receivers. So they traded with the Dolphins for a slot guy. You had talked about how Ford had, looked good so far this season, and he was okay. I mean, there was nothing negative, but do you think that you look at it and go, hey, you know what? They got a pick for it, so it was worth it? Or were you kind of surprised and thought that they should have just kept him?
Yeah, here's the thing about Isaiah Ford, and I like the guy a lot. He's a really nice kid. And my guess is he could be in the NFL for 10 years because he's dependable. He's got a great work ethic. He does what you ask him to do without complaining. But the truth is, there's not one particular skill set that really jumps out.
Yeah, he's not a game breaker. Yep.
No. And so I don't consider it a very consequential trade for the Dolphins. Maybe in light of the fact that now, if they don't have Preston Williams, they do have Antonio Callaway on the practice squad they could call up. They elevated Kirk Merritt, a rookie free agent from the practice squad, on Saturday as well. They have Lynn Bowden Jr., who right now is on the COVID reserve list. And then they have Malcolm Perry. There is a little bit of a need at wide receiver right now, but again, I don't particularly think of Isaiah Ford as an impact player.
Who was the guy that basically stepped into Ford's role?
Well, Mac Hollins would be one of them, and then he came up big with that catch.
So good.
That was spectacular. No, and the guy stayed on the roster because he's been so good on special teams, but he's not somebody without any pass catching ability. And I would put him again along the same lines as Isaiah Ford in terms of a receiver. So he could be the guy you slide in there.
Because
Jakeem Grant also got a lot more playing time at wide receiver when Williams went out.
And again, another position that the Dolphins will be looking at because they have to eventually. I mean, they have their number one, and definitely you hope that Preston Williams, he still has a lot of talent. But they could what do you think? They probably now need to find that really elite level slot guy.
Are we talking about
next year? Next year. Yeah, that's something that in order to improve their receiving, that's again, you got Preston, you got Parker. That's good. Yeah, that's a really good number. Again, as long as Williams is the guy that could take over that number 2 spot, the slot, that's it. Because the tight ends are promising. So maybe the slot out of the receiver position is going to be the number 1 goal.
Yeah, what they have is they have a lot of players at wide receiver. I don't know that they have a whole lot of impact
Yeah.
players. They did have Albert Wilson, who opted out, who's a nice slot
Okay.
player, who could fill that
Okay.
role. So again, it depends on who's going to be available at what
And at
spot.
running back, Ahmed was a bright spot. He made a couple of plays, 38 yards on the ground on 7 carries. What's the status right now as far as the running back situation for the Dolphins?
I wouldn't be surprised to see him get the bulk of the work against the Chargers. I mean, he looked really good. I liked his burst. I thought he actually looked even better than Myles Gaskin, who ironically he played with at the University of Washington. Yeah, he replaced him as a starter. Really, really impressed. I didn't know much about the kid when he was promoted from the practice squad. I'd heard good things about him, and then seeing him in action, very impressive. Again, poor Jordan Howard, same deal again, back from the inactive, 10 carries, 18 yards. Again, I mean, it's been rough going, but he did get his 4th rushing touchdown of the season. Matt Breida might be back this week, missed the game against the Cardinals because of a hamstring injury. But again, based on what I saw against Arizona, my guess would be that it would be Ahmed who'd be getting the bulk of the carries at running back.
All right, and Austin Jackson returned. So he's back at left tackle, and Jesse Davis, and we talked about this, and it actually turned out to be what we thought it would be. Jesse Davis moving into guard and replacing Kindley.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's their best 5. Solomon Kindley's play, I mean, very impressive story. Rookie 4th round pick, earns a starting job, got off to a pretty good start. It seemed like his play had dipped a little bit past couple of weeks. Austin Jackson played really well before he went on IR. I wasn't crazy about his work on Sunday, but he's got a lot of potential, and maybe there was a little bit of rust to be shaken off, I should say. Robert Hunt's been solid at right tackle. Jesse Davis has done a really good job everywhere he's played on the offensive lines, 3 spots now, but his best position always has been and always will be at guard. So to me, with the Dolphins using that combination with Austin Jackson, Eric Flowers, Ted Karras, Jesse Davis, and Robert Hunt, that's their best starting offensive line. Again, Brian Flores said on Monday, because he's always non-committal about, let's say, practically everything, said that he's going to see how it's going to shake out for this week, but that would be my guess that they would go with that offensive line setup.
All right, so again, the Dolphins are hosting the Chargers. That's a late game, and it's interesting that this week you have it took me a while to figure out what was going on with the 6 games at 4:00 and the 5 games at 1. And then I had to revert back to the fact that I was confused why the Masters was starting at 10:00 and ending at 3:00. And I thought that was an error. And then I had to realize that's right. It's not April. So it's football season.
Correct.
And unfortunately, like all the good games, of course, are at 4:00. That's the NFL for you. We're going to put games at 4:00. We're going to make sure that while everybody's watching the Masters, that we're going to put all the good ones, including the Dolphins. Because this game, even though the Chargers are a losing team, they're a fun team to watch. You got Herbert and you have Tua, so that should be a lot of fun. And statistically, you got a Charger offense that puts up a lot of yards, but can't close the deal. And you got a Dolphin defense that will allow yards, but they know how to make big stops and also, of course, turn the ball over. So that's an interesting contrast of those two teams.
Yeah, and you can pretty much already predict that the Chargers will have 527 yards. They'll be up 14-0 the entire. The Dolphins will score 2 late touchdowns and win it on the last play of the game. Yeah. That's how the Chargers games have gone.
Yeah, I don't think Anthony Lynn, if this continues, they're going to have to save his job and win some of these games, or else it's over for Anthony Lynn in LA. You would think, even though the Chargers do some very strange things. That organization is just very strange. The Desmond King trade, I cannot figure out for the life of me. How you give up?
Well, there was something involved there because he was made inactive.
Like a personal thing.
The game before. Yeah, maybe the clash or something, because, he's a really good player, and they trade him away for a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
On the surface, it makes zero sense. But this is a team. and usually it's not terrible coaching decisions that leads to heartbreak, but it always happens. I mean, you look at the game against the Raiders on Sunday. That one is like they had two shots from the 4 yard line and
Sure.
they threw two fades.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
know. Be a
understand the
little
first one,
bit creative, will you, please?
and I understand the first one because it's quick, and if you don't get it complete, they got themselves a second play out of it. But the second one, maybe go to something else. And on top of that, you have Keenan Allen, and you have, well, Mike Williams actually had been injured at the time, but you have Hunter Henry, who are two really good receivers, and instead they go to Donald Parham. I'm sorry, I don't exactly recall his name, but it was like their third tight end or something. So that weird.
That just shows you, though, what kind of a big season it's been for Herbert. How, if you look on paper at the depth of those receivers outside of who you mentioned, Williams and Allen and Henry, a bunch of no-name guys. Now they're young and maybe they'll develop, but these are all just young. And it's every week you look at their box score and it's like Herbert's like one of those guys like Guyton, or who you mentioned, Parham, has got like one reception for 40 yards. Another guy will have one reception and a touchdown for 20 yards. And that's considering that he's a rookie and what Herbert's had to play with. It's just even more impressive. And I'm sure he's going to be just as impressive, but he's going to have to do it against two number one cornerbacks who are not feeling too good after their performance this past Sunday.
No, and my guess is the Dolphins are going to come after him quite a bit, like they did against Jared Goff. I mean, he's more mobile than Goff by far.
Yes,
but he's also not nearly as mobile as Kyler Murray, so it's in between. But he better be ready to see a whole lot of pressure in his face. And the other thing with the Chargers is they do not have a good offensive line. In fact, their best offensive lineman is a former Dolphin, Mike Pouncey, and he's on IR with another bad injury that may or may not be ending his career. So I would expect, again, the Dolphins, to put a whole lot of pressure on Herbert, blitz him a lot, show him a lot of different looks, and see what he's got. But the ability's there. You watch him play, and it's some kind of impressive.
Yeah, the offensive line issues for the Chargers, that's been going on for 10 years. I mean, I just imagine what Philip Rivers' career could have been like if they would have protected him better. And speaking of former Dolphins, Balaj, with his third team this season, led the team last week in rushing. So, because that's an area of concern, obviously, with Gordon gone and Eckler banged up, and Kelly's a rookie and Jackson is an interesting young player, but someone that was cast aside because he was too small at Northwestern. So Balaj got an opportunity to play and apparently did pretty good. So he's coming back home.
Yeah, but here's the thing with Balaj. I know he had a very good game, 15 for 69. Last year, he would have killed for that rushing average.
Right.
But he only played against Las Vegas because of the Chargers elevated him from the practice squad.
Yeah.
Now he's reverted back. He's got one more elevation left with the Chargers because every player is allowed two unless they're actually signed to the 53-man roster. Jackson got a little bit of an injury, I think, to a foot or an ankle against Vegas, so it would not surprise me if the Chargers again elevated Balaj.
Sure.
Give him a shot at going against his former team.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. And by the way, what did you notice with Balaj from year one to year two with Miami, and why he was so effective the first year and completely non-existent in year two?
Well, there are two major issues with Balaj from what I saw in Miami. Is number one, he doesn't break tackles. You hit him and he's going down, or he's getting wrapped up and not going anywhere. And number two, there's no quickness. He's really, really fast in a straight line. In fact, he was joking at the time the Dolphins traded for Matt Breida, they was going to challenge him to a race. And that was all fine and dandy if it's a straight line, but he's got no wiggle.
Okay.
So what you're looking at is a running back who can only run in a straight line. If there's a big hole, like there was when he was a rookie against Minnesota, and he took it 75 yards to the house, because once he hit that hole,
oh yeah,
straight line, nobody could catch him.
We saw it at Arizona State. He would make you see these highlights and you go, "Wow, look at this guy!" But yeah,
and you look at him too. I mean, he's put together.
Yes. Yeah,
and he's fast.
Yeah,
but there's zero quickness, there's zero wiggle, and doesn't break tackles. So
and also did a really bad job of pass protection with the Jets, which is why they got rid of him.
Mm-hmm. And had issues with his hands with the Dolphins too.
And this is a big stretch for Miami because they play the Chargers, then Denver, the Jets, and Cincinnati. So 4 losing teams coming up for the Dolphins. And this could very well be the toughest test, actually, out of the 4 teams. Could be. So
Yeah, no, I believe that. Yeah,
yeah,
and 2 games featuring 2020 first round
yes,
picks, first round quarterbacks going head to head. So
yeah,
that
and
should be
then of
fun.
course can't wait for the Burrow matchup too, coming up
Correct.
in about a
Correct.
month. Yeah. And so the Dolphins are tied with 3 other teams at 5-3, the Browns, the Colts, and Las Vegas. And 2 of those teams, as of today, have to make it. Right now, the Dolphins have the 7th seed, so mathematically they're in. And the Patriots are 2 back, but and even though the Dolphins lost that one game, they do play the Patriots, so they get a chance at I 2 games ahead, to tell you the truth, the way the Patriots, unless the Patriots beat the Ravens on Sunday night, which I don't think they're going to do. I don't think Miami has to worry about the Patriots. But I think if a reasonable person looked at,
You really want to say that,
yes, I do, because
Greg? You really want to say that? Really?
Tom Brady.
I don't. Yeah, but I don't bury the Patriots
Well, they got to beat
until I
Baltimore
get no
though,
calls and I get an official declaration.
but they have to beat
Yeah,
Baltimore.
maybe.
If Miami goes up 3 games this Sunday, they won't
Mm-hmm.
they won't get pet. They won't let the Patriots won't catch them. So as long as the Dolphins,
One
again,
win.
with this schedule, as long as they just keep playing the way they're playing. So and
Yep.
yeah,
No question.
because I think a reasonable person would look at those 4 teams. And matter of fact, Ryan Dunleavy and I think we're reasonable, both picked the Dolphins and the Colts out of those 4 teams. So
No, that's fair. I mean, obviously the Dolphins are on the upswing. Colts not so much. I saw their game against Baltimore on Sunday, and I was massively underwhelmed by that offense.
huge game Thursday night, Tennessee and Indianapolis.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Big time.
yeah, as you're a Dolphin fan, you want to root for Indianapolis to win and bring another team back to 6-3. Because the Dolphins, again, if they win, they'll be 6-3. And the Dolphins will be at Buffalo, the final game of the season, and only a game and a half behind the Bills right now. So if they can just pick up, one more half a game, which is good. They've got that. Well, they have the Bills basically control that. No, actually, the Dolphins control that destiny there, that half game. So if they can win when the Bills are off, the Bills off this week? No, they're at Arizona.
Bills are playing at Arizona.
Yeah, so
following the Dolphins.
There you go. So we'll see, but there could be an opportunity for Miami later on down the road. But first things first, take care of the Chargers on Sunday, and then we can talk about the rest moving forward. All right. So, Alan, Dolphin fans, they're all getting excited, by the way, especially after Sunday and Tua. They must be the most excited that Dolphin fans have been like in years.
Years and years and years and years. I would put it. Well, no, I'm serious. We could mention 2016 when they made the playoffs, but let's say at this juncture, at the halfway mark of the season,
Marino,
20 years, 30 years of maybe, because again, not only are they 5-3 on a 4-game winning streak, but the quarterback of the future is coming off a great game. So yeah, it's crazy.
Alan, thanks. Great job as always. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it, Greg.